Senator Tillis. Nope. Who we got? Grassley. I overlooked the soon-to-be chairman.
During the course of Crossfire Hurricane, the Obama administration used FISA process as a weapon against candidate Trump and then later President Trump. Doing so undermined his presidency from the start. We voted in the Senate on legislation that would repair many of the shortcomings in the current FISA court system, striking a balance of increasing accountability, transparency, and ensuring fairness while protecting our national security interest. Congress must ensure that the FISA process isn't abused for partisan political gain like it was during the Obama administration. So now, Mr. McCabe, to my first question. The Inspector General found 17 errors and omissions in the Carter Page FISA application. There were also over 50 errors and omissions in the Woods file for the Page FISA application. In light of these overwhelming mistakes, the obvious lack of evidence, and the failure to fully apprise the FISA court of relevant exculpatory facts, the investigation simply didn't have foundation to proceed. If you were diligent doing the job, how did you miss all of these critical mistakes and failures that have tarnished the FBI for probably years to come?
Well, I don't agree with your characterization of the investigation being illegitimate or flawed. There are clearly the flaws that you have referenced, the ones pointed out by the IG, should not have taken place in the FISA application, which was only one part of an overall investigation into Mr. Page and 3 other individuals. An investigation that I would point out the IG indicated was for an authorized purpose, properly predicated.
According to the Inspector General, the Steele dossier was central and essential to the Carter Page FISAs. However, according to your testimony before the House Intelligence Committee, the dossier wasn't fully vetted and corroborated before it was used in the FISA application. Why didn't you ensure that the FBI performed its due diligence before the dossier was used to justify invasive surveillance on an American citizen?
The FBI is not required by the court to only present information that has been absolutely verified and proven true. We often use information that we have not yet gotten to the bottom of. We are required to provide information about the source of that information so that the court is adequately aware of, what we know about what we've told them and how we think about its verification. In this case, we were in the middle of a very long and extensive effort trying to prove the many allegations in the Steele reporting.
On January 4th, 2017, the FBI prepared a memo to close the Flynn case and noted no derogatory information was identified. That same day, Mr. Strzok interceded to keep it open. Did you order Strzok or anyone else to keep it open? If not, who did?
I don't recall ordering Peter to keep, or Mr. Strzok to keep that investigation open. I think that obviously that's what happened, but I don't know who gave that order.
Okay. Did anyone ever instruct you to keep the Flynn case open? If so, who?
No one ever instructed me to keep the Flynn case open. We had conversations about the Flynn case towards the end of 2016 and whether or not we should keep it open. There was some thought that we had not developed much information about it during the course of the information and that it might be appropriate to close the case. However, those thoughts changed as soon as we became aware that we had evidence of General Flynn's conversations with the Russians. So our initial concern that General Flynn might be the point of contact between the Trump campaign and the Russians was elevated when we found evidence that he was, in fact, in touch with the Russians.
During your time at the FBI, how many Logan Act investigations were you a part of?
I do not recall ever having been a part of a Logan Act investigation.
Based on the evidence I've seen, much of which has been made public, the FBI was out to get Flynn, and they broke every rule in the books to interview him and try to entrap him. What the Obama administration and FBI did to Flynn under your watch is a textbook example of the power the federal government can be abusive and hurt the American people. Now going to leaks, the subject leaks, L-E-K-S. I've made this point before, but it's frustrating when the FBI refuses to answer this committee's questions in full, but leaks relevant information to the media. I asked then Director Comey in May 2017 whether he ever served as an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or Clinton investigation. His response, quote unquote, never. So next question to you, Deputy Director McCabe, was that a true and accurate answer based on your experience working for him?
Well, first, Senator, to be clear, I strongly disagree with your characterization of our investigation of General Flynn. But with respect to your question about Mr. Comey's testimony to you about being the source of anonymous leaks, I don't have any I don't have any information about that. I don't know.
In that same May 2017 hearing, I asked then Director Comey whether he authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or Clinton investigation. His answer was no. So, Mr. McCabe, was that a true and accurate answer based on your experience of working for him?
I am not aware of Director Comey authorizing or directing people to be anonymous sources for the media.
The Justice Department's Inspector General report on your disclosing of information to the media, lack of candor or lying under oath, contained references to a Clinton Foundation investigation. Specifically, that report said you had a conversation with a Justice Department official about the Clinton investigation, and in that conversation you reportedly stated, quote, "Are you telling me that I need to shut down a valid predicated investigation?" End of quote. Why did you believe the Clinton Foundation investigation was validly predicated?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that question because it's first beyond the scope of what we were told I'd be questioned about today, and also it would call for me to reveal information that I'm not sure the FBI, I haven't been authorized by the FBI to discuss. But I would point out, Senator, that the director and the deputy director of the FBI are the only two FBI officials who have the authority and the responsibility to authorize the release of information to the media. And so I think that your questions are overlooking that important distinction. So that's it.
All right.
My time's up.
Thank you. Senator Klobuchar, we'll go to you in a second. I just want to, based on what you said, you say that you present information to court sometimes it's not fully proven. Is that right when it comes to a warrant?
That's correct. We often present information in warrants that we have not yet finished verifying.
Do you have an obligation when you find information exculpatory to provide it to the court?
In the FISA process, agents are obligated to present information that might cut against the veracity of a source, or you're obligated to present information that puts the court in a position to accurately assess whether they believe the source information you've presented.
So that's why if you alter an email from the CIA saying that Mr. Page actually was a source, that's misleading to the court, and that's why Mr. Kleinsmith's being prosecuted. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
And finally, we'll go to, when you have information in the possession of the FBI in January and March, where the subsource basically disavows the legitimacy of the dossier, a lot of it's bar talk and hearsay, can you tell us how that never made it to you by June of 2017? How could that information been gathered in January and March of 2017 and not known to the system as late as June 2017? Do you know? Did you talk to Mr. Alton about this at all?
I'm not sure. I don't. I'm not sure who that was you just referred to, but I can't say.
Excuse me. The June-March interview of the subsource by the FBI was conducted by Mr. Alton and a few other agents, and that's when the subsource told us basically that a lot of it was bar talk, hearsay, gutted the reliability of it. My question is, you've said if you'd known then what you know now, you wouldn't sign the warrant application. Do you have an explanation as to why that information never made it to you and others?
No, sir, but I think that the team, there is no question that the Crossfire team should have had a much more thorough conversation with the Department of Justice attorneys who were responsible for preparing that package. They should have had full visibility on those facts and made an informed decision as to whether or not they should have been included in the package.
And your testimony is that no one told you about these interviews, the substance of them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.